Alrighty, everybody! Welcome back to another week of Those Nerds You Know.
Yeah.
My name is Ethan.
And I'm David McQueen.
We are Those Nerds You Know. And we're coming at you this week with a review of Death Note.
Specifically, the Netflix show.
The live-action Netflix movie that was, the one with American people.
American people, yeah. So, when I first heard about this movie, a lot of people were like, oh, what do you think? Being a person who has seen the show. And they were like, oh man, Hollywood just keeps trying to make anime into live action movies over here now and stuff like that. And I'm like, A, not really. B, this
they made two.
This was bound to happen with this particular show, in that this show has been around for so long, it's basically done everything. They've already made 3 live-action movies in Japan.
Right.
They've made a musical.
That's right, I forgot about that.
They've got a lot of...
Death Note
Death Note's got quite a bit going for it already. So it's eventually it was going to come to America, and they were going to do something like this.
That is super accurate, yep.
So I was not surprised at all when I saw this.
Yeah. I guess I kind of was, because I'm still surprised when Western filmmakers and production companies pick up anime titles at all to make live action films from, because I figure anime is very popular and there's plenty of people to watch it, but it's just I still feel like anybody who doesn't like anime just thinks it's weird or too far out there or too childish or whatever. Yeah. I feel like there's a real hard stigma against anime.
Yeah, and
then when we look at any of when people first started trying to make anime movies, we look at movies like Dragon Ball Evolution, which was horrendous.
Yikes! That was objectively bad.
The Speed Racer movie that I guess was
Speed
bad,
Racer
didn't do well.
I don't know. It didn't. I don't think it did well. I think it bombed.
Seen it.
I'm pretty sure it bombed, but I don't know. I heard it's not. I don't know. From people I know that have seen it, it wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
It was
I've heard mixed reviews,
what you expect. Yeah.
But I just.
Yeah.
I figured but I like that Netflix got it. I think Netflix is a good place. Netflix is a cool... Yeah. Anytime they pick up something, I'm like, all right, this is cool. Because Netflix to me seems like the perfect place to just try something out.
Yeah, exactly. They're very experimental with a lot of their stuff. And so that's the big thing about Netflix, is they're willing to take the risks on it. On big projects like this, because they're constantly looking for new content and new things to put on their thing, but also other ways for them to make money more directly than to have stream other people's movies and shows and stuff. Yeah. So it's neat that they're constantly making new stuff and trying out what works and what doesn't. So that's cool. And I think it's given it's like you said, I think it's given a good space for artists of the craft to try and get in there and try something new, basically. Try something different than other people.
And so as a just as a basis for anyone who doesn't know what Death Note is and hasn't watched it, and for some reason is listening to us, Death Note, the general concept is that there are death gods who have these things called Death Notes, which can be used to kill people. You write the name of a person in the Death Note, and they will die. And you can specify time and type of death and things of that nature. If you don't specify, it still happens, but it's like a heart attack, I think, is the basic one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the general. If you don't list how they die, basically, what the word I'm looking for is, but if you don't say how they die, they just die of a heart attack. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this Death Note falls into the hands of a high school boy named Light, and he starts using it to basically be a god and to bring quote-unquote justice to people around the world. Yep. And so that's the essential story of Death Note. And then when he gets people on his tail, so like an investigator named L and things of that nature. So the story is basically just him attempting to not get caught.
It's kind of this cat and mouse game between him and L. Yeah, there's this game between L and Light in the anime. And in the movie, where they both neither of them knows the other's true identity, and they're trying to find that person, and it's basically whoever is the first person to find the other person's identity is the winner, basically, in their conflict. It's very it's very intense in some of the parts in the show. The movie has some pretty intense moments too, though.
It super does.
The movie is pretty stressful.
So you know, the movie is the show's rated TVMA, TV mature, which is basically the equivalent of an R rating.
Yeah.
So be aware of that.
A lot of F-bombs.
If you're using this to judge whether you're going to see it or not.
Yeah.
A lot of F-bombs, but there's also it's very graphic when people die.
Yeah. Very gory, yeah.
Very, very graphic, gory deaths. And a little bit of nudity.
Yeah. Brief nudity, yeah. But yeah. So... Right. Just sprinkled in nudity, yeah. Just little bits and pieces. So I come from a background of a person who has seen Death Note. You...
Nah, bro.
Haven't seen any Death Note.
Nope. I read the first chapter because
the manga, right?
I'm pretty sure Shonen Jump put it out.
Mm-hmm.
And what they would do anytime they were putting out a new manga that they weren't going to serialize in the monthly magazine, they would give you the first chapter or two whenever it first came out, and then it would just go straight to graphic novels from there. So I read the first one when it was in Shonen Jump.
Very cool.
And I didn't continue reading it. I love the artist.
Mm-hmm. The art style's great.
Tagashi Obata? Am I right about that?
I have no clue. I don't know who the author of the manga is.
I feel like Obata is the last name. Yeah, that sounds right. But anyway, the same person that drew Hikaru no Go, which is
Hikaru no Go. Yeah, that was a good one.
I was reading that in Shonen Jump. That was serialized, and so I read that quite a bit. And then Bakuman. Yeah, artist from Bakuman. And something else, I think, too. But anyway, love that artist. Very cool. But I didn't get into it. Didn't read it. Didn't watch it. Which is strange, I guess, in the anime community. I'll get around to it, guys. Look.
No, it's an older anime and it's an older manga. It's been around for a long time. It's got a lot of
it's funny when you say older.
Tsugumi Oba, yeah. Yeah, that's his name.
Because older to me is like Yu Yu Hakusho.
Well, it's older and then like I watched it in like high school, middle schoolish time, and I was late to the party at that point. You know what I mean? Like it was around. It's been around longer than I've been watching anime, which is not long, but you know what I mean.
It's probably been around since 06-ish, 05.
Yeah,
in America at least. I don't know how long it's been in Japan.
Yeah, but yeah. So, what do you think of the movie?
So I enjoyed it a whole lot more than I thought I was going to enjoy it. Like. Mm-hmm. David suggested watching this and doing this for the show, and I was like, okay, fine, I guess. And I was just like, I guess I'll sit through this movie that I probably won't like. I was fully expecting to hate it.
Really?
I really was.
Oh, wow.
And I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Huh.
It goes a little too fast in some parts.
Yeah, a little slow in other parts.
I don't know if it was too slow in any part. I think it was all pretty rushed.
Yeah.
It goes real fast, basically. Things develop really quickly, which in all honesty isn't too far off of what anime sometimes can do. Sometimes, things will happen. And so like, for instance, in The Devil's a Part-Timer, one of my favorite anime, it's 13 episodes.
Yep.
That encompasses over a year's worth of time.
Yep.
It just doesn't seem to pass that way. Because you're going from episode to episode so quickly.
Yeah.
You think, it's been a few weeks. No, it's been like a year and a half by the end of it.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And so like this, it has to speed through some things because the anime is an anime. It's a series. It's not a movie. And so they have to speed some things up. So I didn't like... They basically, when they established that he and Mia are gonna... When Light and Mia decide to disguise their killings as a god named Kira.
Yes.
They basically establish that through a montage.
Yeah.
Which I think is so strange.
It is a little, it's pretty rushed.
Like, all of a sudden, they're just like... And they jump to that so fast.
They do.
And he shares this thing with her so quickly.
That is true.
Quickly, he's just like, I can kill people with this. And she's like, hey, what's up? And he's like, hey, you want to watch me kill somebody with this? And she's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
She's like, wow, that turns me on. She's what is that called when you're attracted to...
no idea. Death? I don't know.
When you were sexually turned on by death. That's not nymphomania, is it?
I would say necrophilia, but that's turned on by dead people.
I think it is nymphomania. No, that's just general sex in general.
You're just
what is it called?
Sex fiend. I don't know.
I don't know, but yeah,
I don't know, but she's turned on by death. She's,
bloodlust.
Bloodlust. She likes
comparable to Elektra from.
Yeah, she's basically the kind of girl who would go after a serial killer. She'd like to sleep with a serial killer.
Heck yeah, no.
And so that's her.
This chick was nuts.
She was crazy. She was super crazy.
Cray. Anyways, she goes on really quickly. She goes on with the idea of killing people real fast. Yeah, and they just establish this, and they're like, we could just kill people, and we could just call ourselves Kita.
Yeah,
throw them off our scent or whatever the heck they're gonna do. And,
sure.
So they just do this, and they kill hundreds of people over the course of what you assume is months, or I assume is months by the end.
Yeah,
of it. At least weeks.
It's one school year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And so
at least, so I mean, at the most, because by the end of it, it's like they're like at prom or something, right? Or is it homecoming dance? I
think it's prom. If it was homecoming, that'd be real fast.
Right, it'd be really fast. Exactly. Yeah.
No, it's got to be prom.
I think it's prom. Yeah.
Prom. But yeah, so that all goes real fast. But I think I really enjoyed the pacing after that.
Mm-hmm.
Once we got to L,
yeah,
I think everything was real cool. It was really... It kept me up. It made me want to finish watching the movie once L got involved.
Mm-hmm.
And...
L is fantastic.
He's so good.
He did a really good job.
My favorite part of this movie. And he's so cool. And I feel the worst for him. I'm just like, I want him to win so bad.
Yeah.
Because he's not some punk kid with a god complex and a toy that can kill anyone. Mm-hmm. He's just cool.
Yeah.
And he's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Strong mind, and gosh, it's fun to watch him interact with people on screen.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think they made an excellent choice with who they cast for that, and goodness gracious, it's cool. So I was wondering about that, like watching it, because I know what the characters look like. I know what Light and L, and is it Misa? Is that her name in the comics?
It's Misa. Short, like she's Misa, who's like an idol. Misa. She's an idol in Japan. Is
she that nuts in the show or in the show in the anime, in the manga?
So in the manga,
this is going to be a lot of me asking you if things.
Because I'm gonna do. No, that's fine because I plan on doing a lot of comparisons to this in the show.
That's
so
fine.
In the show, because I haven't read the manga, I just saw the show. But in the show, she's a pop artist. I don't remember her being that bloodthirsty. What she is she's obsessed with Kira. She's obsessed with Kira. She loves him because she likes what he's doing. And by the time they meet, or not too soon after they meet, she ends up having her own death note from her own Shinigami.
That's right. That's the other thing they don't go into in this that I think was interesting, or it's just kind of odd in that for anyone who doesn't know the series, and I have a minimal knowledge of it, but going into it, I already knew that there are multiple Shinigami, and this is the death note is just a tool they use to carry out their job.
Yeah,
more or less.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Ryuk just kind of in this, it's made to seem like humans have to have it, and Ryuk is just attached to it. When in reality, that's not the case.
Yeah, he talked about in the movie, he talked about how before Light got his hands on it, someone else had it.
Yes.
And
when in the manga, I'm pretty sure he just drops it, right? He's just let's see what happens here.
Yeah, he drops it.
He just wants to play with humans.
But he's also not the only one that's used his Death Note. It's implied in the show that people before Light have used the Death Note before. Even Ryuk mentions that people before have used the Death Note, but never anybody has used it as much as Light used it. Gotcha. Like nobody that had up until this point when Ryuk matched Light, nobody had gotten the Death Note and been like, I could become a god of justice. You know what I mean? Like, they may have done, like, the way they kind of, like, talk about it, Light describes it as, he thinks maybe some people were using it to, like, settle scores or get at people they didn't like and things like that. They'd write, like, one or two names in there, maybe, just to see if it worked, and after that, they'd be like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, and they'd just leave it, basically. But Light was just like, no, I could change the world with this. I could fix everything. We can fix everything. But yeah, so... Yeah, in the movie, I think L was very good. I think L did a really good job playing his part, trying to chase Light. I felt him as very intelligent. I liked the how he was piecing the clues together against Light, and I loved Watari. I loved.
Gosh, that made me so sad.
Yeah, it was really sad. It was very.
I saw it coming, but I was so sad about it.
Yeah, it was. Like, it was pretty sad to see him go.
Watching Elle's reaction to all of that. Gosh. I like Elle so much.
Yeah. Misa, I thought was cute. But I didn't. I didn't. Mia. Sorry, she's Mia in the show. That's right. Light is Light Turner instead of Light Yagami. So I mean, like everybody had American names. I just couldn't.
That would make sense.
Oh, Ryuk. Ryuk was great. William Dafoe did an amazing job as Ryuk. I thought he was really good at that.
So is Ryuk as sinister in the anime and manga as he is in this movie?
Define sinister.
So like in this, it seemed like he had an agenda to just be evil and do crazy evil things. Whereas in the manga, from the little bit that I read, again, this is just my first 1 or 2 chapters of just reading it. In the movie, Light sees a little bit of writing in the book that says Ryuk is not your pet and he's not your friend.
Okay, yeah, I remember that bit, yeah.
Whereas, like, in the movie, I never would have assumed that this Ryuk was a pet or a friend.
No.
Or even close. However, the Ryuk from the manga, I definitely could have assumed, because he seemed kind of like...
mischievous?
Yeah, he
more
seemed
than
kind
anything?
of like a smidge more goofy and not all the way there, maybe?
So this is when it starts to get
Whereas into this one seemed very, very... pointed. Like, he was like, I want to give this to some humans so we can go kill some people because I like this.
So, yeah. For anybody that hasn't seen the show, if you watch this movie, like it or love it, like it or hate it, if you watch the first 2 episodes of the Death Note show, which is what I did after I watched this, you'll see the very drastic differences between the shows. One of them, and this becomes one of my problems with the show, with the movie, I mean... I guess from an adaptation perspective, because I thought the movie was okay as a movie, but being an adaptation of Death Note, Ryuk in the show is a Shinigami. He sits in the Shinigami world doing his Shinigami thing and writing names in Death Notes every now and again, but they mainly just dink around and gamble and just pass the time, and he's just bored all the time, and he doesn't like it, and so what he does is he finds excitement by like quote-unquote dropping his Death Note on the human world. Like, he's like, oh no, I misplaced it. And they're like, oh, where'd you misplace it? And he's like, oh, I must have left it on the human world. And he goes down there and he finds a human who's picked up the book, basically. And he's really, by the time he meets Light, and really in general, he's just there for the ride. Like, he just wants to, like, he has zero control over the Death Note or its owner once it's in the hands of a human.
Right.
And that was the thing that bothered me in the movie, is that not only was he telling Light to kill people and write names in the book, he straight up did it. Like, he would straight up take the book from him and write a name in it and kill somebody even though Light said not to. And I'm like, no, he had no say in that. Like it's not his book anymore. He's not holding on to that. He's not the keeper of the book.
I don't remember who he killed.
I don't remember who he killed either, but or he did something, because I remember he took the thing and he was like, he was interviewing, or Light was yelling at Ryuk about something. He's like, oh, did you kill this person or whatever? And Ryuk is just like, yeah, what did you think I did? Like,
well, yeah, because I think, but that was a point where Light was upset at Ryuk because he thought Ryuk did it, but in reality it was the crazy girl, because she knocked all those FBI agents off.
Right.
As well as...
Was it Ryuk that we thought did it? Is that who made it?
Yeah, we were led to believe
that Ryuk did it. Okay, yeah. But even then, Ryuk... No. Like, Ryuk would do things to make...
Like, he was threatening Light. That's the thing I saw that I didn't think I saw in the manga.
No, he doesn't threaten Light necessarily. He doesn't need to, though. In the manga...
That's what I'm saying. Like,
in the manga and in the anime, he tells Light from the get-go, day one, he's just like, because you have used this Death Note, you don't get to go to hell or heaven when you die. You're going to become a Shinigami, basically. You're going to be like me. And so he's like, we're in this together now. He's like, I don't have to do anything to you. And in fact, according to the rules, he can't do anything to Light. He can't hurt Light. He can't affect Light. Light can't hurt him. They toy at the idea that Light could write Ryuk's name in the book. And he's like, oh man.
And then Ryuk's just like, there's 4 letters in my name.
People only forgotten the 2.
God is 2, yep.
And I'm just
Which I thought was a cool line.
It was a cool line, and it played out really well, but at the same time, in my head, I was like, it doesn't make
Ryuk.
sense.
Yeah.
You can't kill Ryuk, and Ryuk can't kill you. Like,
right.
You guys are in this together.
It's pronounced Ryuk.
Ryuk.
I like that a lot.
I love that scene, too. I thought that was really neat. I thought that was...
Defoe was very fun in it. Very creepy.
He played a very... Yeah, he played very cool.
It very well.
Yeah. I was hoping to see William Dafoe. When I heard him cast this, I was hoping to see him play Ryuk more as this goofy character. Because, But for me, it's like, I think William Dafoe would have nailed that either way, and he did a great job, honestly. And so it's more of a writing thing than an acting thing. Right. But that was just something I thought that bothered me in the movie, was I was like, why is he more jokey? Like, he eats the apples because he likes them. He doesn't eat the apples because he likes to toy with Light. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't... He hangs out with Light because he finds him interesting and fascinating. And he even helps Light a few times, but never, like, physically. Like, he can't do anything to help. But, like there's a time where Light tricks a bad guy into touching the Death Note. That's another thing. In the comics, I mean, the manga and in the anime, when another person touches the Death Note, that person can see Ryuk. They can see and hear Ryuk, which Mia couldn't do. But in the anime, he gets a criminal to touch the Death Note, or at least a page of the Death Note, and then he can see Ryuk, and Ryuk's just sitting there. He's just like, "Oh, hello," and the guy like panics and just starts shooting at Ryuk, and the bullets are just going through him, or whatever, and he's just freaking out, and like that's like a way they like trap him into getting killed or something later on down the line. But it was really funny. But it's like Ryuk literally did nothing. He just stood there and talked to the guy and just scared the pants out of him. So I'm like, he's just there for the fun of it, like you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know, like also Mia at the same time. So that's the thing. Throughout this whole movie, Light is really just an object being acted upon by Ryuk and Mia.
That is true.
He's just a guy
who far less
gets a
of
Death
the
Note.
like actual genius that we are led to believe he is in the manga and the anime.
Yeah. Which
doesn't show until the end in a weird burst of genius, I guess, that I don't think was earned or...
Not at all. No, yes.
I was like, this guy's not this smart. How did this come out?
Yeah.
I don't,
It's very odd. And then, like, there's not even, like, tips or, like clues that this character has high intelligence.
He does everyone's homework. That is the one thing you get, is that he does literally everybody. Like, he does. They said he had, like, 15 students' homework.
But, like, homework doesn't necessarily mean anything. In the first episode of Death Note,
he's also monetizing it, so he's pretty savvy.
I guess, but he was getting away with it, sure. But my thing is like, in the first episode of Death Note, his mother gets his test scores from his class, and she says, "This is the highest test scores I've ever seen you get," or whatever. And he's just like, "Yeah, whatever." Like he just kind of is like, "Oh, I just did my thing."
Right? No, I agree. They did not play up his genius at all.
Yeah.
Or show it off in any way. Like they didn't play him off as being a contender to L.
Yeah, no.
At all.
Yeah, not at all. And that's the thing, like, even him and
supposed to
he and Mia together just, like, seemed to kind of piece something together, but even then, like, she didn't seem that intelligent so much. She was just in it for the thrill of it. Like, she was in it for the bad boy, for the dangerous guy.
No, she was in it to get off. That's definitely
it was
true.
So odd.
We were real go crazy.
So, again, like, there's this power shift. In the original show, Light is in charge. He's the one who wants to kill people. He's the one who wants to do his thing. Ryuk is there for the ride, and Misa is there. She comes to Light basically already obsessed with him. She knows about him. She's famous. He's famous because he's known as Kira online and these kinds of things. And so when she finds out he's Kira, she's like, oh yeah. And he basically uses her and her fame to help him in his crusade. And she, being the loving follower, does everything she asks. And she's basically like, they have this like Joker Harley Quinn thing. Like he basically has like zero attachment to Misa in that he just uses her as an object the rest of the show.
Gotcha.
And so it's just like, it's very like odd and creepy. And it was very interesting to see that flipped on its head in this movie.
Yeah.
In that the girl was the one in charge the whole time. It was neat. I thought it was fun. But at the same time, again, to me, it felt like if it wasn't for Mia and it wasn't for Ryuk, Light would not at all be in the position he was in. It just felt like, I felt like they were there to kind of like catalyze this quick story you were talking about. Like they were there to be like, we're not killing enough people. We need to get to the finale where we're killing a lot of people.
Because I mean, like, Light, I don't think he would have even started killing bunches of people unless he had wanted to impress Mia to begin with. And then after impressing her, then they got to the idea, we can just kill a bunch of bad people.
Also, when Ryuk first met Light, it had been about... We're led to believe it's probably been about a couple days. It's been a couple days since he's had the Death Note before Ryuk finds him. And in that time, he's killed like tens of people. He's killed like 50, 60 people already with the Death Note. In the anime, yeah. In the anime.
Right, because he's read the rules.
So when Ryuk shows up, he's just like, oh, this guy's used it. He's like, at that point, Light has already used the book more than anybody that ever held it before him. Like, he's just like, wow, this kid really likes killing people. He's like, this is going to be interesting. And so he's just along for the ride the whole time. And so that's just like, it was interesting that it's like, in this situation, Light had to be kind of coaxed to that. He had to be kind of pushed to that. Because it's tough because there wasn't that... I guess the call to darkness was I guess more obvious in the movie than it was in the anime.
Yeah.
Because in the anime, it's like you kind of see that he is like Light's not all there. He's kind of psychotic early on, in fact, with the killing. But even then, early on, when he deals all the killing, he's only killing criminals, and it takes a while before it takes a while before his darkness leads him to killing people. I guess for sport or whatever, or killing people because he doesn't like them, or killing whatever the case may be. So it's interesting. But, like, the show is 37 episodes, so it has plenty of time to get that slow burn. So I guess for the movie, they just had to, get it out there fast. They had to have him, just murder people quick. And they just had to see... And so it was a different draw to the darkness in that in the show, he kind of becomes power-hungry to the point of calling himself a god. In the show, he doesn't call himself Kira, or... He's not the one who gives himself that name. The internet gives him that name. A bunch of his followers show up and they're like, hey, we're going to call this guy Kira since he's killing so many people. And he's just like, well, I don't know how I feel about that, but I mean, they like me, so I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. But in the movie, again, it's like there's that power dynamic again. They're like, well, I'm the god. And he does call himself a god early on. He sees himself as the god of the new world. So you do see that god complex early on in the show. But in that movie, I don't know. I think it's just interesting.
I think from a Westerner's perspective, or someone who hasn't watched the anime or doesn't grasp it or doesn't maybe understand the idea that's quite prolific in anime of a genius kid or a prodigy kid of some sort. If Light had been a match for L mentally, he probably would have had to act similarly to L. Or they probably would have had to write a character to make him believable.
Some kind of quirk or something.
Yeah, well, someone who's just purely logical, who doesn't really have much of a social life, or who doesn't, and again, who isn't really interested or invested in the love interest of the show. And maybe they felt like people wouldn't be able to actually connect with that or relate to that. Yeah. And so instead, he's kind of a kid who's fairly smart, but kind of socially awkward and gets picked on. Yeah. And that's his main motivation at the start for killing someone. Or wants to be liked. So I can understand them wanting to do that, but I think it would have been more interesting to have the Light that's a genius and psychotic and crazy. Yeah. Because, I mean, we have things like... Too.
I also feel like... Well, this is another thing I think kind of probably pushed them the way they are, is that, like, I feel like they worried that a Western audience wouldn't feel for a character who seems mentally unstable from the get-go. And so they wanted him to be like, well, this is a guy who's like, I guess they wanted him to be relatable enough to where like, well, this guy's not really a murderer. He's got these friends kind of pushing him into this thing. And so maybe that was a bit, but it's like, but
he's just like you.
I saw Death Note. You know what I mean? I watched Light even though I knew he was crazy.
His friends want him to hurt people.
Right?
I get to.
When I watched it with my twin brother Scott, and he and I picked sides. I chose L, and he chose Light, and he was all about Light. By the end of the show, we both were on the same page, and that we were like, okay, no, Light needs some killing. Like, he needs to get out of here.
Light definitely needed some killing. You were super right.
No, he definitely needed some killing. I like that the movie left it ambiguous a little bit. Like,
question for you.
Yes.
Light does die at the end of the anime, right?
Yes, he does die.
Confirmed dead.
He's confirmed dead.
Is this the point where he does die at the end of this movie? Or is there more after this?
So, the movie's very different than the show as far as the way it's around this time is when it becomes clear that he is Kira to the public, not just to L. It was the time that he got killed.
See, what it seems to me like is like
he was stringing people along basically the whole show until the final arc, basically, when they finally caught on that it was him.
It seems to me like where this movie ends, which is again where we have
but
this
even then
random spark of genius from Light, is where we could pick up. We could have a second movie that actually is. Maybe he was just pulling our leg this whole time. Maybe he's a genius. Mm-hmm. But now with his girl gone, and now him having a better understanding of Ryuk and how everything works, he could really be a match for L, and we could actually have a movie where he and L really do get to face off.
Yeah.
I think that would be cool.
If I were making this movie, I could see making a sequel where Light and L continue going on. But seeing as how they got the evidence, I don't know. This has been the point in the show where he would have died. Because this is the point in the show. So, like, in the movie, it's revealed to his father, the cop, that he is Kira.
Right.
And L gets the page from the Death Note and knows that, or he seems to grasp that the Death Note is what's causing the death. You know what I mean? It's his weapon, basically, of choice. So it's like, he's got the smoking gun. I think by the end of the show, and it's been a long time since I've seen it, so I don't know the details, but I do remember a bunch. I believe at the end, I think it's revealed a little close to the end that he is Kira, and he tries to basically kind of convince people to be on his side, the cops to be on his side a little bit, but also because of the fact that, like, they don't have any evidence against him, like they don't have anything to charge him with because it's his weapon of killing people is so mystical. And that's basically when the cops come to the decision that, like, we can't take Light in, we have to kill him. We just have to shoot him. And so, like, that's basically how they get him. And it's told basically at the beginning of the show that Ryuk tells Light that he's just like, when the time comes, when you're done with this life, I'm the one who's going to write your name in the Death Note. Like, I'm going to have to do that. And, like, that's how the show ends, basically, is Light gets shot and he's running away from the cops. And Ryuk writes his name in the Death Note. He's like, you're done, kid. We had a good run. Cool, and I'm just like, yeah, like, like, it's over. Like, you did your thing. And so, yeah. So if this was the movie, I could see it going either way. In this movie, I could see it, but mainly I think I leaned real heavily on this is the time when Light would be killed by Ryuk.
And also, something that's interesting about this film is that, again, because they changed Light so much, the anime and the manga I think is very, very cool, and that it definitely is you reading or watching a show, a story where you are basically watching it from the bad guy's perspective. Mm-hmm. And I think it does that very effectively. Yeah,
well, in the show too. In the show, not only you're watching from the bad guy's perspective, you're watching it from the good guy's perspective as well. You see what L is doing and how he's solving things, and you're seeing that, you know, what he knows and what he doesn't know and things like that. And so there's this interesting thing about it where it's like you're seeing it like this back and forth where it's more serendipitous, or like it's a little bit like, you know, it's interesting that, like, when you see them getting so close, but you never catching one another.
But what I mean is, in both series, Light is the protagonist.
Yeah, he's the good.
He's the guy.
He's the hero of the story.
You are meant to follow.
Yeah,
and he is the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
He literally is the villain in this show, and it's interesting to me that you have a show that works so well.
Yeah.
Showing you a villain, having you follow a villain.
Yeah.
And that they decided to downplay that in this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
And make him seem less like a villain and more like someone who was pushed. More like Ryuk is the villain
so
for the
another
crazy
thing,
girls.
And it's interesting because we had a show. So I don't know if you ever saw any of it. Maybe some people have seen it. There's a show out there called The Following. It's got Kevin Bacon in it playing a detective who's basically chasing after this serial killer who's got this cult of serial killers, basically, and they're going around this following, basically, and they're going around and just killing people and doing these things, and he's basically tracking this guy down, and, like, we're told the story from the perspective of Kevin Bacon's character, but we see all the things going on in the serial killer's situation, like, we see that, basically, and he wins a lot, like, he wins a crap ton, but you're following Kevin Bacon's character around as he's the protagonist of the story, but, like, it's interesting how drawing that show was because of the how charismatic and evil basically the bad guy in that show was, and like Death Note reminded me a little bit, or the show reminded me of Death Note a little bit, and I was like, man, if this show can do well on TV, like, maybe Western audiences is ready for a Death Note on a more mainstream like level, basically.
Yeah. No.
So, but yeah, no, it was interesting. Like you said, they downplayed it. Some other differences in the
Bring it on.
Show musical books and the movie is that
musical books.
The Death Note itself seems different. The rules are weird. He mentions in the movie that there's like 98 rules. I don't know the number of the rules. I know there are 66 pages of rules in the beginning of the Death Note. And some of the pages have multiple rules, so I don't know if it actually comes out to 98 rules. It probably does. It comes somewhere near that. And there's a lot of really interesting and complicated rules in the show, but it felt like, to me, like the movie was like a little more complicated in its use of some of its rules. Specifically in Light's use of deciding people's deaths and how he could affect their lives before they died, basically.
Oh, right, he could control them.
Yeah. So...
That's not something...
As far as I can... So that's the thing. After I've watched the movie and I've rewatched the first few episodes, I read through all of the rules of the Death Note from the show. And the movie breaks a lot of the rules that just don't make any sense. There's a time limit for everything. Like, yes. When you write someone's name and you have 40 seconds before they die of a heart attack. Correct. Before they... that. But if you write a time of death, when you start writing a time of death, you have 6 minutes and 40 seconds to finish writing the time of death and all those other details, basically. So you have to write it quickly, basically. Once you've started this, you have to go. But also, you can write a way of dying. Someone dies before you write their name. And there's no time limit for that. You can just write, died by this, and then later on you can fill in the name and it'll just do that.
Gotcha.
Those kinds of things. So there's different little nuanced rules like that. But they had things like... I couldn't find any specific rules as to what his limitations were. I know Light tried his limitations in the show, in that he had like 5 or 6 inmates basically that were in prison, and he tried to write to get them to do things before they killed themselves in their cells. Like he asked one of the prisoners to write down the name of L, draw L's face in his cell before he died, but the guy couldn't because he didn't know L. One of them he asked to write the names of the FBI agents that were chasing after him, but he didn't write the names down because he didn't know those names. Like, he asked a guy to say that he believed that L was in the right and Light was in the wrong for chasing after him or whatever, but the guy didn't write that because he didn't feel that opinion. He didn't believe that. Those kinds of things. So he couldn't get people to do things that weren't possible to do or weren't willing to do. But like, generally, the things he got his people to do throughout the play, or the movie, what the heck, is... The musical, was stuff that later on related to their death. Like, he didn't just basically, like, possess them for 2 days and then they died. Like, he would get them to do some elaborate thing that would cause their death, or cause the death of someone else. That's another thing. The Death Note makes it so that you can't have that one person's death affect the death of another person unless that person's name is also in the Death Note. So, like, the scene in the nightclub when every single person is slaughtered in that nightclub, all the hookers and everybody and all these different things, he would have had to write every single person's name in that Death Note. And have their face in his mind, as opposed to what it just looked like, which is it looked like he made the gangs just shoot each other in the face and kill everybody that was nearby.
Right.
Like, but in that situation, if it caused that, where there were innocents that would have died that weren't names written in the Death Note, it would have just caused whose names he had written, to just die of a heart attack instead. They just wouldn't do that other thing. Like, so it's just, like, you can't just, like, have people just be like, oh, this guy goes into a place, he shoots a dozen cops, and then the cops kill him, basically. Like, because then you'd have to name all those cops he shoots. Right. And so it was just very weird to see some of those things. And, like, once a name is written in the book, even if you erase it or white it out or rip it out of the book or burn it, that person's still going to die. Burning the book is not a rule in the show. That was a Deus Ex Machina they added in.
Can you destroy the Death Note itself?
You can destroy the Death Note. If you destroy the Death Note, that's it. You lose your connection to it, and you also lose all memory of using the Death Note, I believe.
What happens to the Shinigami?
The Shinigami just gets another Death Note. He just goes back to the Shinigami world and gets another Death Note. Another thing about the Death Note, besides the burning thing, that was so dumb. Again, I mentioned that if someone else besides you touches the Death Note, they should be able to see your Shinigami, and they can write in it and all these different things, and that all works. Ryuk made it sound like if he gave up the Death Note, Ryuk was going to kill him, which is not the case.
Definitely, yeah.
In the anime, he even at one point does give up the Death Note, but the way it works is, if he gives up the Death Note back to the Shinigami, he loses all memory of ever using the Death Note. He loses it completely from his mind. He doesn't lose, like, every memory like, he doesn't lose all of his life, basically, leading up to picking up the Death Note. He just forgets everything about the Death Note. All that stuff is severed from his memory. He just lived a life, and he doesn't remember anything about writing books and naming in a book, basically.
So he doesn't have to live with that guilt?
Yeah, he doesn't have to live with that guilt. He does it in the show at one point to dissuade suspicion from him, because when he gives up the Death Note, he gives up his ability... He gives up his knowledge of the Death Note. So once he gives up the Death Note, he plays innocent very well because he thinks he's innocent. And so he's able to get the scent off the cops. And then when things start to
That's really cool.
Yeah, then when things start to get back onto him, there's this really neat scene in the anime where he needs the Death Note, and he kind of pieces things together. He finds some sort of... He's kind of like helping the cops while he's innocent, basically, to try and figure out who this Kira guy is who's doing all this terrible stuff. And like while he's piecing the clues together, he realizes that he might be Kira, and he realizes he's created this compartment in his watch that when he opens it up, there's this little slip of paper that's from the Death Note, and when he touches that paper, he regains all his memories of that Death Note, and it comes all flooding back to him in just this moment of like climactic need of that knowledge. It's very cool. It's a very well built scene, and I knew there wasn't going to be like that in this movie because it would have taken so much build up. There was lots of episodes to get to that point, but
also this light is an idiot.
Yeah. Also, this light is an idiot. Yes, quite.
Not a super genius that could have helped the cops do anything.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That was one of his big covers, in that it was a little bit like Dexter as well, in that in the show, Light helps the detectives find who Kira is, and basically he uses the knowledge they know to help figure out what he's doing wrong and help step ahead of them, basically, because he's the chief's son, basically. Mm-hmm. And so they're like, oh yeah, this guy's a nice guy. He works, he's the chief's son. He could be, he's a really good guy. And so they just keep him around. Also, that's another thing. In the movie, his dad is the only one investigating as part of the FBI, besides L.
Right.
In the movie, he has a whole task force of people. And L figures out...
Anime?
In the anime, sorry. Gosh, I'm sorry. I'm getting them mixed up.
You're fine.
In the anime, yeah, he has this whole task force of FBI agents and like other agency agents helping him out. And they all have... early on, they realize that he something to do with the name or identity is how Kira is killing people. And so...
Right, well, Elle figured it out in the movie because it's the only people that have died who have had their name and face put into the media.
Yeah. And so basically they find agents who have been like undercover or just haven't had a lot of media and stuff like that, and they're the ones running the case, and basically do all they can to keep their identity secret. And so the chief has like this whole group of people. The only person that Light knows the identity of in the show at first is his father. That's the only person he could kill if he wanted to in the show, is his father.
That's why, oh gosh, the scene when in the movie when his dad tells him about Elle and Watari,
yeah,
when he tells him Watari's name, I was like, crap, he's gonna die. So immediately when he said that, I was like, come on.
So that bothered me very much as well. In the show, Watari is not his real name. And even if it was his real name, for the Death Note to work, he would have had to write his first and last name.
Yeah, no,
and so when I saw him write Watari and it worked, I was like, you're kidding me. I was like, this is stupid. And then what they did with Watari was even worse, because when he called him up and he was like, I do not have this knowledge, I was like, yeah, suck a duck, like, get over it. Like, and then when he can just continue to just be like, no, I need you to find this information, and the guy basically his mind slave for the next 2 days, I was like, what? I was like, where is this? You didn't write any of this part of the Death Note. Like, you're just telling him to do things for you until he dies. Like, I was so...
That was definitely a strange thing. Yeah,
I was so lost.
It certainly added tension, though.
Yeah, it did. No, it did. Yeah, and Watari, and he was a very cool character. Like,
he was.
I thought he was really neat.
So
and
of course he was going to die.
It very much pulled Elle in a great way.
It also got Elle. It got things moving. It was another thing. It was another decision that I felt
escalated the story.
Yes, people had to make in order to get this to fit in 1 hour and 50 minutes. It's an hour and 48 minutes.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, pretty close to 1 hour 50. Yeah, yeah. And so just something to speed the thing along. But it was just it was so weird to me, and then just I don't know.
I feel like I feel like, and we've said this, I feel like the movie in and of itself is fine.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing, like, as much as I was thinking, like, oh man, this is not like the show and stuff like that, it was jarring for me, but like the movie's not bad. It's not bad. I thought it was alright.
It's not the most accurate representation of
and I wasn't expecting it to be. I knew it was going to take some licenses.
And that's my other thing.
I just felt like the book was really like one of the things they would keep correct. You know what I mean? Like I figured
but they would. I don't know. It's just again,
like, why couldn't Mia see Ryuk? Why not? Like, what would that have changed? Like, like
I don't know.
If anything, it just made Light look more crazy.
Super did. It's just, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like, again, they wanted, because again, you as a director, as a producer, you don't want to just make straight up adaptations. You know, you want to leave your mark.
You want it to be different. You want it to be
yours. I gather that. I understand that. And again, I didn't go into this I went into this with no expectations.
Yeah.
Like, my expectations were in the garbage. So I was pleasantly surprised and ended up enjoying the film.
Yeah.
Because of that. So if you go into it with no expectations and you haven't seen the original stuff, I think you'll probably enjoy it just fine.
Sure.
But that's how I feel about a lot of adaptations.
Yeah.
Because if you're going into something...
That's how we were with the Gunslinger, or the Dark Tower.
Yeah, people are with the Dark Tower. That's how people are and were with Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
That's how they are with any adaptations, particularly movie adaptations of things. Because again, I don't feel like most other media lend themselves well to movie adaptations.
Yeah. Something I thought this movie did very well, and I thought we've talked before about with adaptations, is this movie made me really badly want to go back and rewatch the show.
Yes.
It made me really want to watch the show and see how it played out.
It's piqued my interest now.
Yeah.
Which, I feel is good. If you can condense something down that gives people a taste of something, that introduces them to things, cool.
Yeah.
If this movie takes some non-anime fans and turns them into at least fans of Death Note, to watch or read watch the anime or read the manga, I think that's a triumph, and that's cool. And I could see this doing that. Yeah. It's not a bad film. Mm-hmm. So if people watch it and get intrigued by it, I think that's cool.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Are there other moments that you really like? It's a lot of moments that I
really
enjoy.
I love the confrontation with Light and L in the diner. I think that's really, really neat. That was a very neat thing. Because L is like that in the show. So that's another thing. The L in the movie is spot on L in the show. He does a very good job.
I liked everything about that.
He's the most perfect part of that adaptation. Mm-hmm. Like they got, if anything was wrong, they got L perfectly right.
That's something that was great. I was trying to say earlier that I forgot about. I forgot I was even saying. It was like, as I was watching this, I was like, because I'm aware of some of the characters, I'm aware of what L looks like, and we have a friend who's cosplayed L before, done it plenty, and I'm like, I wonder what kind of weird, greasy white guy they're going to get to play L. Yeah. And he first shows up, he's dressed like a ninja in this nightclub, and I'm like, oh, is it a Japanese guy? He's speaking Japanese, and then he's a black guy, and I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah, no, he's great.
Fun, bold, I like it. It's great. It was a good choice. He played the part really, really well. I really loved looking into L's psyche, seeing how he works. Mm-hmm. He was cool.
He was very good. I thought he was great. And the thing I liked about that,
see him kind of break. As well.
Oh yeah, he's struggling. God. He's struggling to keep it together. I felt
so bad for him. I really liked. So I loved the scene where they confront each other or L confronts in the diner. I also really like the scene where he comes into the house.
Yes, that's a good one too.
And he has that. And he talks to Light. He has sort of a tussle with his dad. Yeah. And all the guys come in and just like tear this place apart.
Yeah, tear it up.
Find everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, this is.
Yeah, no, it was very good. I thought, L definitely like stole the show when he was on the screen. It was great, and I think that's another thing that maybe the producers and directors like kind of hit on is that like when you find Death Note memorabilia, you find Ryuk stuff, you find apples, and you find L. Yeah, like that's it. Like there's not
people like
there aren't Light toys that I've seen. There's some. But
there's a lot of Misa plushies.
I've seen Misa pictures, Misa plushies, but like I don't see a lot of Light stuff. I've seen a lot of L stuff. Yeah. People like the hero. He's the hero of the story. Yeah. And they really played that very well. And I thought it was really neat that in the show early on, even they're set up to where L knows Light is Kira, and Light knows he meets L basically. But Kira doesn't know L's name, and L can't prove that Light is the Kira. Yeah. And so there is this thing where like there's even a time in the anime for like a couple episodes where they're like, I don't remember what the reason is, but I've seen the scenes for it, so I know it's still a thing. They were handcuffed together, but like by a really, really long cord, so they were like basically stuck in an apartment together, and they just couldn't leave one another. I think it was because L didn't trust Light, and he wanted to make sure he had an eye on him, so he basically handcuffed himself to Light, and to try and find him when he tripped up and stuff. And it's very interesting that like there's this dynamic of these two characters who like are so close at each other's throat, but they can't do the thing, and it's very interesting. But no, that was really neat. I really like the struggle you see L go through when he finds the Death Note page.
Yeah,
that was neat.
Yeah, that was very good. I enjoy right because he was about to write Light's name in it, but he couldn't. Right, because he's a good guy, David.
But he's a good guy.
I like just about every interaction between Light and his dad.
Yeah, I thought his dad was good.
Those are good.
I thought his dad was good. I thought his dad lacked a certain mustache. His dad has a really thick mustache in the show, but that's just me. I thought his dad did a great job, actually. He was good.
It was cool.
I didn't like that. I mean, it made sense. I just didn't like that his dad was the only one on the case. That like all the cops were against him and stuff. I thought that was very weird.
Yeah, strange. And it was also not really terribly necessary. It didn't really do anything.
Yeah, it's like none of the cops ever tried anything. They just kind of teased him.
Well, yeah, the only thing that happened was that they trashed his office.
Yeah.
But it didn't really add anything to
yeah.
the movie. Like, it was,
yeah, no, I don't know, but it was fine.
I think I said before that it was strange and unearned that Light had this spark of genius at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But I did like watching it and going back and hearing him write it all down, and hearing him play it all out, and be like, "Wow, you actually just were gonna kill me." Okay,
yeah,
that's nuts. Like,
yeah,
and so like you can see that sort of little bit of genius in it, and how he got the doctor to resuscitate him, and he made sure the page flew into the fire. He got the postman to pick up the Death Note and bring it back to him. All this it was explained really coolly in that. In like a very Ocean's 11-esque thing.
Yeah,
where like,
I like
after this thing happens, we get to see how it all.
I like the situation at the prom when with the top hat.
Yes, that was cool.
Where he trades the top hat with the guy. So
but again,
that
was Mia's idea.
And yeah, it was Mia's idea, and it just again, like it was all very her show.
She was the one that took the Death Note so that the cops wouldn't find it.
Another thing that felt weird, again with the people getting controlled by the Death Note, the whole Mia knocks out a detective and has him write the names of the other detectives in the Death Note.
Yeah.
I was like, what? That you can't do that. Like,
well, on top of that, I don't buy that this high school girl got the drop on an FBI agent.
Yeah, not at all.
In what was very likely a controlled environment.
Also, the characters that were in the squad, the FBI squad organization trying to stop Light or Kira for the long time were like really cool guys in the show. Like they were like legitimate characters who had like conflicts with one another, and they were like you see them in the opening credits of the show for a long time. Like they all have like different hairstyles and personalities and stuff like that, and they're constantly like, it's like an ensemble cast a little bit with these cops. And it's like here it's like they were cops we didn't know anything about or care that much about, and they were just killed before we even saw most of them.
And they were just used. Because, we didn't focus on characters really in this movie. They were just used to show a transition from Kira killing
criminals to also killing law enforcement.
And so it shows a turn in the public's eye of Kira.
Yeah.
Where there begins to be even more of a divisive sort of
and that's the thing that was weird to me, but the thing was like, we knew there was a guy following Light, right? We knew there was a guy, he was being tailed, and it was L's thing. But like my thing was like, she knocks out the guy tailing Light, and then she has him write a bunch of names of detectives I didn't even know were chasing Light. Like, I thought it was just L, this guy, and his dad. And then we find like 4 or 5 guys like walk off a building, and I'm like, who are these guys? What were they doing? What was their job in this task force? Like,
I feel like at some point someone had announced that there was an FBI task force on it.
Yeah, well, like L
so they knew that there
called
were
somebody basically and tried, but I was like, but we didn't know them. That was all off screen. Like, I was like, what? I don't...
Yeah, again, they're just a thing there to add... Whenever they got called in and put on it, it was just there to put pressure on Mia and Light.
Yeah.
Again, to push the thing forward and to push Mia to make a decision to kill non-criminals.
Yeah.
To, again, push this forward. That's all it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't there. We weren't there to learn about the characters. We didn't have to care about them. They were just, hey, these are people who aren't criminals and they killed them. This is bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which was...
That's all it was for.
Which was very...
It was just a plot device.
Yeah, it just, I don't know, it just felt really weird.
Didn't have to.
But then also, like, the scene where Light is talking to Mia about the website where people are posting criminals on their website, and Light brings up the good point. He's like, what if these guys aren't criminals? What if people are just putting people's names on this board in case they are?
Yarp.
And Mia just kind of plays off, and she's like, no, these are bad guys. And I'm just like, why couldn't she just be like, no, we should just kill them anyway because I like killing, like,
yeah,
like, because we know she's crazy, like,
yep.
I don't know, like, and that's just, I don't know, it just, I understand why they wouldn't, it just, that would be too, it wouldn't be subtle enough, I guess, but it was just very weird that she was pitching this whole thing, and Light's just like, okay, if you say so, they must be criminals, and I'm like, or they could be anybody, and she just wants them dead because she likes death.
This is fact.
It was, their relationship was interesting in this show, or in the movie, compared to the show.
For the most part, the movie itself is a boiled down version, more or less, especially character wise, as we just discussed, of what has happened in the show, with the added twist that the Death Note is a little more OP than it is in the show. Ryuk is a little more evil and entangled than he is in the show.
Yeah. And
Light is a little more of
an
idiot.
The heat is put on Light early in the movie,
right.
And that's the thing that, like, with the show, they had 37 episodes to make this long burn, basically. But in the movie, they had to hurry it up, and so the time was ticking, basically, and so they had to do something to make things push forward.
Something I do appreciate, though, is that, well, I kind of appreciate it. I don't know. This is
something else.
This easily could have turned into someone being like, "Oh, we'll just make a series of Death Note movies, and we'll just do the first third of the anime, and we'll leave ourselves room to do more." But they didn't. They instead chose to make a definitive one movie, Death Note movie, which I appreciate. Yeah. And I stand by. It was a good decision.
Yeah, it was a good decision, at least from a business perspective. Because, like I said, two of the live action movies in Japan, one of them being like an OVA story or an off story called L Changes the World or L Saves the World, or whatever. But the first two live action movies were the first half of Death Note and the second half of Death Note. So it was a 2-part movie series for Death Note. Like, it was Death Note and then Death Note: The Last Name, where it wraps up the whole story. And so, like, they definitely could have done 2 or 3 movies and pieced together because the show has definitive arcs. There are moments in the show where, like, okay, this is the conflict, and then, like, oh no, this is the twist, and then, oh wow, here's the final twist. So yeah, it was interesting that they could have definitely done that. But you're right, it was better for them from a business perspective to just do it in one movie. But I don't know. Another thing that has nothing to do with the show, but more to do with the movie itself, I didn't really care for the music choices in this movie. It felt kind of jarring to have this kind of like 80s soft rock stuff going on in the background.
The only one I didn't really care about was the final song that they play when everybody's dying.
in the most like
the other
climactic moment.
The other ones I was pretty fine with, actually. I liked
the only one I was okay with was I thought the prom song with Take My Breath Away was clever. I thought that was neat.
Quite.
I thought that was neat, and it fit the prom and it fit the situation. But like the other stuff, I'm like, in the show there's a lot of orchestral music, and the openings have a lot of like heavy metal type stuff. Very like
when you
aggro
get some more
stuff.
Screaming, that's right.
Yeah. And so I'm like, I don't know, like I felt like that was the kind of music that Light and Mia, or at least Mia, would be listening to, and not this like kind of hipster soft rock stuff going on. I was like, what is this? I don't
This is the decade of hipsters.
But everybody's got to put a thing like that, put an oldies in the movie.
Oldies and indies. That's what we got. That's what we get.
But it's fine. I think the movie's fine. I definitely would suggest it to somebody whether they've seen the show or not. Honestly, if they haven't seen the show, again, I think it's fine because hopefully this movie makes them watch the show.
If they haven't seen the show and they're not as big into anime, I would definitely recommend this.
Definitely, yeah.
And they're okay with gore and all that nonsense.
Yeah, that's true too. That's another thing. Light didn't kill people in like really graphic ways early on. He did heart attacks for a long time.
Well, because I mean, you've only got a couple minutes to write things down.
Yeah,
you don't have time to get all whimsical and poetic.
Yeah,
I get that. I understand it. But again, that's something different. And then people like that, so we have this theatrical thing.
Yeah, I had this more like, I don't know, it just felt very like...
Question for you.
Sure.
Is the story about his mom the same in the anime?
No, his mom's totally alive.
Okay, that's
totally
what I thought.
Part of the story.
I think that was just yet another thing they did to try and make it more relatable.
Yeah.
Because they just tried so hard to make you relate to Light.
That whole thing about him killing his mother's killer was very weird and out of place for me.
They try real hard to make you relate to Light.
And it's like, once he died, I was just like... For a long time, until his father found the article, I was like, I don't understand what the point of this was for the movie. Yeah. Like, to me, it's like...
It was to give his detective dad something to piece together.
Yeah, and that's what it felt like. And it just, like, to me, the payoff didn't feel that great at the end. When his dad found that, I was just like, I mean, there were a lot of other hints, a lot of other... hints as well. Meh. Like, you call yourself a detective.
Yeah, that's accurate.
But, I don't know.
But, again, they try real hard to make Light seem relatable, because I guess that's just this thing we're stuck in here in movies and TV here. Is like, oh, we want to relate to the main character or whatever, but, like, you don't need to. And essentially, Death Note was this slow burn of you realizing how badly this guy needed to get dead. Yeah. And how horrible of a human being Light is. Yeah. And we didn't really get that in
No, we didn't. We really didn't. And that's
he had a stroke of genius at the end where he decided to kill Mia.
In the show Death Note, like we mentioned Mia killing the detectives the way she did. In the show, there is a moment like that. There's a moment where Light kills a bunch of FBI detectives that are chasing after him. But the way he does it is he can't use the Death Note to get them to do those kinds of things, or at least he doesn't. I don't know if he can or not. That's the thing. I don't know that rule's never really clarified to me. But what he ends up having to do is he basically researches each of the members of the squad, and then he figures out kind of who's the weakest link, who's got some dirt on him basically, and he basically blackmails this man, and he finds him on a subway. Or he's not there personally, but he basically kind of tracks him and he calls him up on his phone or whatever, and he puts him in a situation where he has him on a subway and he's got this, and he tells him like, under your seat is a folder, and in the folder there's a form, and I need you to fill out in the form the names of all the people that are on your task force, or else, whatever this dirt is going to get out about you, whatever the case may be. And this guy has this form, and it's a folder, you see, and in the folder it's got a form, and in the blanks, there's these cuts in the folder, and what you find out later is inside the folder is a sheet from the Death Note, and so he has the guy writing the names directly onto the Death Note to fill out this form, and I'm just like, that's so brilliant! Like, I love that so much. He ended up just like murdering like all of them, and I'm just like, good night. And it was just like, but it's like it had that very like that genius like Ocean's 11 type situation that it built to that moment where I was like, oh no, he's got them all at this point. Like, no. Yep. But like, yeah, with Mia just overpowers a guy.
Yeah. Just walks up to some dude and tases him in the neck. What I assume to be a parking lot, a parking garage.
Parking garage, yeah.
That's probably attached to some government building that he was
probably
working at.
Probably attached to the police department.
Probably has a controlled access.
Right.
Don't let crazy 16-year-old girls with tasers walk up in this here.
Yeah.
It's just, that was strange.
It was that, yes.
But I guess they were just trying to show how cold-blooded she is.
She cold-blooded, man. Ethan, she cold-blooded.
I already knew that.
But
she's crazy.
No, but it was... No, I thought... Yeah. It was interesting.
She suggested killing his dad.
Yeah.
All of this.
Which
Homegirl's nuts.
the longer I was watching this movie, the more I was trying to remember if that happened. I don't remember if it did. I believe his father does die, but I don't know if it's necessarily by Light's hand. Like, I don't think he writes his name in the death note, but I think something happens to him during the investigation. I think someone ends up taking it, but I'm like, oh no. But I thought for sure he was going to get killed. I thought a lot of things. Like, I did not expect Watari to die. At least not in this movie. Like,
yeah, that was sad.
Yeah, but
does he die in the anime?
Yeah, he dies in the anime. But he dies in the anime, so Light finds...
just about everybody dies in the anime.
Yeah, well, yeah, most of them die. Yeah, everybody, basically only Ryuk lives. Like, no, like, but the thing about it is Light kills Watari. He finds out Watari and L's name at the same time. So he kills them both simultaneously. Like, they die within minutes of one another.
What in the
world? And then the organization, that orphanage or whatever that takes in the kids and makes them geniuses, another genius has to step in and finish the case, basically. And everybody that watches Death Note, like, everybody's like, that's the point when the show gets dumb because they don't like the new detective. I think he does a fine job, and
that's crazy. I didn't know they would do that.
And he finishes the story just fine, I think. But
that's nuts.
But everybody's like, this is when it gets stupid.
I wonder why. I don't know why they make the decision.
I don't know why they would either, but I thought it was fine. But it was really funny because I mentioned before
why the author would make the decision to kill
L. Yeah. Mm. But when me and Scott were watching the show, I mentioned we had teams, and when it got to the point where Light got the drop on L and he killed L, Scott was like rubbing it in my face like a mofo. He was like, "Oh, hit the dust!" Like, he was just like so happy, and I was like, "No, why?" But yeah, no, it's rough. Spoilers for the show. I'm sorry, guys.
Obviously,
but,
thanks, David. Gosh,
but still watch it. It's great.
Well, not now.
It's played out very well, but it's quite good. I'm gonna rewatch it because I don't remember all the details, and there's some really good stuff in there.
You're really good.
Oh, also, I'm probably gonna buy the manga because next week, I think it's next week. It's the beginning of September. They're coming out with a collection of the manga where it's gonna be like all 12 volumes in like one, like 2,400 page book, basically.
That's gonna be a real big book.
Giant book of all of Death Note. It's like gonna be like $36 too. So I'm like, instead of right.
So you're just gonna buy that? Is that what you're saying?
I'm probably gonna buy that. Yeah, okay. I'm probably just gonna buy that and buy all of the manga. I'm probably when I've talked to some people, what I'm probably gonna do is buy that and just read the individual volumes at work, because I work at a bookstore, and like flipping through 2,400 page manga would be ridiculous. I think I'm just going to have that on the shelf and then just read the manga
There's
elsewhere.
No way they're going to put all... It's 12 volumes?
All 12 volumes. Plus an additional like epilogue that was not available anywhere else, apparently.
I don't believe that. I'll have to see it with my eyeballs.
I will
just
too.
Put it into 4-3.
Right?
I imagine that's what they do. It's just a box with those 4, but I don't know. We shall see. Anywho,
we'll see.
That's the Death Note movie.
Yeah.
It's worth a watch regardless.
Check it out.
Check it out. Develop your own opinion about it and tell us about it.
Yeah.
You can get to us on at TNYK Pod on Twitter and on Facebook. You can also email us at thosenerdsyouknowpod at gmail.com. Check us out on YouTube. We're on Podbean and iTunes.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually we'll be on other places where you can get podcasts and stuff. But that's where we are right now.
Did you get thosenerdsyouknowpod at Gmail? Did I miss that? Okay.
Super did.
Neat. I wasn't paying attention.
David.
Nope, never again. What's listening for? Yeah, tell us what you thought. Tell me where we're wrong.
Indeed. Tell us where we're wrong. Tell us where we're right. Let us know how you liked it. Let us know if you do let us know how you feel about this movie. Please let us know if you've seen any of the Death Note anime, or if you did any Death Note before this movie, and if you're going to do more of it afterwards. Yeah. Let us know.
Check out the live action movies from Japan.
I guess.
I hear they're awful.
If you want to do that.
I liked them though.
But yeah, That's it. That's us. My name is Ethan.
I'm David.
And we are Those Nerds You Know.
Bye.